They called it a backwater world, a Category D development zone. Primitive, tribal, volatile. Their observers described a species unable to unify, obsessed with internal struggles, and emotionally unstable. A curiosity, not a threat. That was their first mistake. The first contact report was sterile, bipedal mammals, oxygen breathers, capable of basic spaceflight, nuclear capable, though self-limiting, divided by arbitrary lines called nations, warlike, but constrained by codes they rarely obeyed. The observers called it chaotic and irrational. But one entry, buried deep in the transmission logs, described the species differently. They are not chaotic, it read. They are practice. Practice. In death. In endurance. In war. Other species had ancient conflicts, of course. Borders disputed. Resources contested. Skirmishes. Campaigns. Most lasted decades, perhaps centuries. But on this blue world, war had never ceased. It changed names. It changed weapons. But from the moment they could lift a stone, humans used it to kill, not out of hunger, not out of survival, often just because they disagreed. They fought with sharpened sticks, then bronze blades, then iron, then gunpowder. They razed cities before they could write. They built empires and burned them. They split atoms to vaporize each other. They created gods to justify violence, then killed those who believed in different ones. They told stories about war to children and called them fairy tales. Their history wasn't stained with blood. It was written in it. Aliens who read their archives recoiled. Entire volumes dedicated to how best to cause pain. Treatises on siege warfare. Handbooks for psychological torture. Not one civilization in the Galactic Union had encountered documented war as extensively as humanity. But what disturbed them most was that humans also studied peace and treated it like an anomaly. They didn't just survive war. They thrived in it. War accelerated their technology. Every innovation came from violence. Surgery advanced through battlefield medicine. Satellites were developed to guide missiles. The internet was created to resist a communications blackout in the event of nuclear war. Their greatest peacetime inventions were built with blood still on the blueprint. But it wasn't just the scale. It was the nature. Other species feared pain. Humans studied it. Some sought it. In every other culture, the loss of a limb was a tragedy. Among humans, it was sometimes a beginning. Soldiers replaced legs with machines. Athletes ran faster on blades and bone. Where others mourned, humans rebuilt. Stronger. Death was not a deterrent. It was a motivator. No alien army ever trained its soldiers to expect to die. Human military doctrine didn't just expect casualties. It relied on them. Their battlefield memorials celebrated loss. Their anthems sang of the dead. And when their enemies believed they had finally won, humans became something else entirely. When cornered, they got creative. When outnumbered, they got brutal. When outgunned, they got clever. They learned to fight dirty because they were born in dirt, raised on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Volcanoes, earthquakes, tornadoes, predators, viruses, ice ages. They didn't curse their world. They conquered it. And once they did, they turned on each other because struggle was their baseline. Peace was the discomfort. The galactic analysts didn't understand this. They classified humans as emotionally unstable because of their inconsistent reactions. But it wasn't inconsistency. It was multiplicity. A human could be compassionate and violent in the same breath, cry over a dying animal, then kill without hesitation. It wasn't a flaw. It was design. Their minds were paradoxes. Their logic unpredictable. Their morality malleable. They were not a hive, not a singular intelligence. Each human carried a universe inside them, and many of those universes were at war. Even their entertainment betrayed them. Entire industries dedicated to conflict, simulated battlefields, war reenactments, horror for amusement, spectacles of violence celebrated, songs, poems, films glorifying sacrifice and vengeance. No other species commodified fear like humans did. They sold their own nightmares back to themselves. The galactic historians saw the warning signs. A handful raised concerns. One wrote, "They are not a species of peacekeepers. They are a species of survivors, and survivors make poor subjects." But by then, the fleet had already been dispatched. Diplomatic overtures failed, not because humans rejected peace, but because they knew what peace really was: a pause between wars. They saw the smiles, the open arms, and waited for the blade behind the back. That's what they would have done. That's what they expected. When the fleet appeared above Earth, it expected surrender. It broadcast its intentions, its superiority, its demands. The response was silence, then static. Then every orbital satellite went offline. Earth went dark. What followed was not resistance. It was disappearance. Entire cities emptied. Power grids collapsed. Ports were scuttled. Spaceports destroyed. The humans didn't defend their territory. They denied it. They abandoned it. And then they began to hunt. The first ships disappeared without engagement. No wreckage. No signals. Then others were found, with crews mutilated in ways that suggested precision and rage. Human weapons weren't detected, because they weren't using weapons. They were using everything. A hacked drone network overloaded a cruiser's cooling systems. An improvised fusion detonation gutted a destroyer from within. A civilian ship exploded, taking 2 frigates with it. Humans turned their entire infrastructure into traps, their own people into bait, their planet into a grave. And they did it without orders. That was the most terrifying part. The Galactic Union expected command hierarchies, logic trees, predictable patterns. Humans didn't follow them. They acted in cells, in pairs, alone. Some never received orders. But guess what needed to be done? Others disobeyed their commanders and won battles by doing so. Their war was not coordinated. It was viral. Where one failed, another adapted. Each defeat taught them something new. Each loss hardened them. They didn't mourn fallen comrades the way others did. They used their memory as fuel. Vengeance wasn't a possibility. It was a doctrine. Galactic forces tried psychological deterrence, broadcasts, threats, displays of power. None worked. Humans didn't just ignore fear. They mocked it. Some of them seemed to enjoy it. One alien commander recounted a transmission from a human pilot. The man had just lost both wings of his fleet. Alone, outnumbered, weapons depleted. He laughed, then rammed his ship into a capital vessel, detonating its core. That laugh was recorded and replayed across alien systems for years. Not as a warning, as a question. Why were they laughing? What did they know that others didn't? The truth settled slowly, like poison in a well. Humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting because they had nothing else. And when a species finds purpose in war, they become impossible to defeat. The destruction of the Third Fleet was a tipping point, not because of its loss, but because of how it happened. An orbital cannon, constructed from scrap and debris, aimed manually, fired once. One shot, through the heart of the command ship. No guidance systems. No targeting AI. Just human calculation, intuition, and fury. They thought the First War was the worst. They were wrong. The Galactic Union believed humanity's initial resistance was a fluke, a desperate, chaotic defense by a primitive species. They assumed that once Earth's infrastructure was crippled, the humans would capitulate. But humanity had never relied on infrastructure. They relied on will. When the second wave of Union forces descended, they encountered a different enemy. The humans had adapted. They had learned. And they had prepared. The Union standard tactics, overwhelming force, technological superiority, psychological intimidation, had worked on countless species. But against humans, they failed spectacularly. The more pressure applied, the more resilient the humans became. Union commanders reported unprecedented guerrilla tactics. Human fighters emerged from seemingly nowhere, striking with precision and disappearing before a counterattack could be mounted. They used the terrain to their advantage, turning every environment into a battlefield tailored to their strengths. In the dense jungles of Epsilon Prime, human units used the thick foliage to mask their movements, setting ambushes at decimated Union patrols. In the frozen wastelands of Norvac 7, they adapted to the sub-zero temperatures, launching surprise attacks from beneath the ice. Even in the vacuum of space, they modified civilian vessels into makeshift warships, using unconventional strategies that defied Union logic. The Union's artificial intelligences, designed to predict enemy behavior, found human tactics incomprehensible. The algorithms failed to account for the sheer unpredictability of human decision-making. One report noted, human actions do not follow logical patterns. They are driven by emotion, intuition, and an apparent disregard for self-preservation. This disregard was not recklessness. It was calculated sacrifice. Humans understood the value of a strategic loss. They would willingly suffer casualties to achieve a greater objective. This mentality baffled the Union, whose species prioritized preservation above all else. In one notable engagement, a human commander ordered a direct assault on a heavily fortified Union position. The attack was a diversion, drawing enemy forces away from a critical supply line. The cost was high, but the strategic gain crippled the Union's operations in the sector. Human adaptability extended beyond tactics. They repurposed enemy technology with alarming speed. Captured Union weapons were reverse-engineered and integrated into human arsenals. Communication systems were hacked, allowing humans to intercept and manipulate Union transmissions. They even modified their own biology, using cybernetic enhancements to improve combat effectiveness. Psychological warfare became a human specialty. They exploited the Union's fear of death, broadcasting images of fallen Union soldiers, accompanied by messages designed to demoralize. They spread rumors of unstoppable human units, sowing doubt and panic among enemy ranks. One such rumor spoke of the Ghost of Orion, a supposed human squad that could infiltrate any facility undetected. Union forces diverted significant resources to counter this phantom threat, only to discover it was a fabrication, a psychological ploy that achieved its intended effect. The Union's morale deteriorated. Soldiers hesitated to engage, fearing the unpredictable and ruthless nature of their adversaries. Some units mutinied, refusing to follow orders that would lead them into human-controlled territories. In response, the Union escalated their efforts, deploying their most advanced weaponry. They unleashed orbital bombardments, targeting human settlements with devastating firepower. But even this failed to break human resolve. Survivors emerged from the rubble more determined than ever. They rebuilt, repurposed, and retaliated. The destruction only fueled their anger, transforming civilians into soldiers and soldiers into legends. The Union's leadership convened emergency meetings, seeking solutions to the human problem. Proposals ranged from total annihilation to negotiated peace. But consensus was elusive. The fear of humanity had permeated every level of their society. One council member stated, "We have awakened a force that does not seek conquest, but survival. And in their survival, they have become the most formidable adversary we have ever faced." The Union's attempts at diplomacy were met with skepticism. Humans had learned that peace was often a prelude to betrayal. They demanded unconditional withdrawal, refusing to negotiate under duress. In a desperate move, the Union deployed a biological weapon, engineered to target human DNA. The virus spread rapidly, causing widespread illness. But humanity's scientific community mobilized, developing a cure in record time. The countermeasure was not only effective, but also adaptable, rendering the virus obsolete. This act solidified humanity's perception of the Union as an existential threat. It galvanized global unity, dissolving former rivalries in favor of collective defense. For the first time in history, humanity stood as one. United, they launched a counteroffensive. Coordinated strikes targeted key Union installations, disrupting supply chains and communication networks. Human fleets, now equipped with hybrid technology, challenged Union dominance in space. The battles were fierce. Losses were incurred, but the tide had turned. In the Battle of Vega Prime, human forces executed a pincer movement, trapping a significant portion of the Union fleet. The engagement lasted for days, culminating in a decisive human victory. The Union's flagship was captured, its crew taken prisoner. Interrogations revealed the depth of the Union's fear. Officers spoke of nightmares, of an enemy that defied understanding. One captured admiral confessed, "We thought we were superior, but they are relentless. They do not break." The psychological impact extended beyond the battlefield. Union citizens, once confident in their government supremacy, began to question the war's justification. Protests erupted, demanding an end to hostilities. Facing internal dissent and external defeat, the Union sought a ceasefire. They proposed a demilitarized zone, offering reparations and recognition of human sovereignty. Humanity's response was measured. They agreed to peace but imposed strict conditions. The Union was to dismantle specific military installations, provide technological data, and acknowledge the atrocities committed. The treaty was signed, marking the end of active conflict, but the scars remained. Humanity had proven themselves not through conquest, but through resilience. They had faced a technologically superior enemy and emerged victorious by leveraging their greatest strengths: adaptability, unity, and an indomitable spirit. The galaxy took notice. Other species reevaluated their perceptions of humanity. Some sought alliances. Others maintained a cautious distance. The legend of human tenacity spread, becoming a cautionary tale. In the aftermath, humanity did not seek expansion. They focused on rebuilding, on honoring the lives lost, and on preparing for future threats. They understood that peace was fragile and vigilance was necessary. Their military remained active, not as aggressors, but as guardians. Training programs emphasized not only combat skills, but also ethics and diplomacy. The goal was clear: to prevent future conflicts through strength and wisdom. They had survived the onslaught. They had repelled invaders. But humanity was not content with mere survival. They sought to understand, to adapt, and prepare for the future. The scars of war were etched into their collective memory, serving as a constant reminder of the price of complacency. In the aftermath of the conflict, Earth's nations convened to form a unified governing body. The global coalition was established, consolidating resources and knowledge to ensure humanity's continued prosperity and security. This unprecedented unity allowed for rapid advancements in technology, infrastructure, and interstellar exploration. Human scientists, engineers, and strategists worked tirelessly to reverse engineer alien technology. They integrated these discoveries with their own innovations, creating a new era of technological prowess. Space travel became more efficient, communication systems more sophisticated, and weaponry more formidable. The coalition prioritized the establishment of outposts and colonies on habitable planets. These settlements served as both strategic military installations and centers for scientific research. Each colony was equipped with advanced defense systems, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. Education became a cornerstone of the coalition's efforts. Curricula were redesigned to emphasize critical thinking, adaptability, and resilience. Students were taught the history of the war, not to instill fear, but to foster a deep understanding of the challenges humanity had overcome and the importance of vigilance. Cultural exchange programs were initiated, allowing humans to interact with other species in the galaxy. These interactions were carefully monitored, with the dual purpose of fostering diplomacy and gathering intelligence. Humanity had learned that knowledge was as powerful a weapon as any laser or missile. The coalition's military underwent a transformation. Traditional hierarchies were restructured to promote flexibility and rapid decision-making. Special forces units were trained in unconventional warfare, cyber operations, and psychological tactics. These elite soldiers were equipped with cutting-edge gear, including exoskeletons, cloaking devices, and neural interfaces. Artificial intelligence played a significant role in the new military paradigm. AI systems were developed to assist in strategic planning, threat assessment, and logistics. However, strict protocols were implemented to prevent over-reliance and ensure human oversight remained paramount. Humanity's reputation in the galaxy evolved. They were no longer seen as a primitive, volatile species. Instead, they were recognized as a formidable force, capable of both destruction and diplomacy. Other civilizations approached the coalition with a mixture of respect, caution, and curiosity. Trade agreements were established, allowing for the exchange of goods, services, and knowledge. These partnerships benefited all parties involved, fostering economic growth and technological advancement. However, the coalition remained wary, always prepared for potential betrayal. Espionage became a critical component of the coalition's strategy. Intelligence agencies were expanded and given broad mandates to monitor both internal and external threats. Counterintelligence operations were conducted to identify and neutralize spies, saboteurs, and other subversive elements. Humanity's commitment to self-improvement extended beyond technology and defense. Environmental restoration projects were launched to repair the damage inflicted on Earth during the war. Renewable energy sources were developed and implemented on a global scale, reducing dependence on fossil fuels and mitigating climate change. Healthcare systems were overhauled, incorporating advanced medical technologies and practices. Life expectancy increased, and diseases that once plagued humanity were eradicated. Mental health services were expanded, acknowledging the psychological toll of the war and promoting overall well-being. Art and culture flourished in this new era. Artists, writers, and musicians drew inspiration from humanity's trials and triumphs, creating works that resonated across the galaxy. These cultural exports serve as both a means of expression and a tool for soft power, influencing perceptions of humanity among other species. Despite these advancements, the coalition remained vigilant. Defense budgets were maintained, and military exercises were conducted regularly to ensure readiness. Contingency plans were developed for a wide range of scenarios, from natural disasters to alien invasions. Research into emerging threats continued unabated. Scientists studied potential dangers posed by artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and other cutting-edge technologies. Ethical guidelines were established to govern these fields, balancing innovation with caution. Humanity's exploration of the galaxy uncovered remnants of ancient civilizations. These discoveries provided valuable insights into the rise and fall of interstellar empires, offering lessons that the coalition took to heart. They recognized the importance of adaptability, unity, and foresight in maintaining their place among the stars. The coalition also invested in the development of space-based infrastructure. Orbital shipyards, research stations, and defense platforms were constructed to support humanity's expanding presence in the galaxy. These installations served as hubs for innovation, commerce, and security. Diplomatic efforts were redoubled to prevent future conflicts. The coalition participated in interstellar forums, advocating for peaceful coexistence and mutual respect among civilizations. They promoted the establishment of universal laws governing warfare, trade, and the treatment of sentient beings. However, the coalition was not naive. They understood that not all species shared their values or intentions. As such, they maintained a robust intelligence network to monitor potential adversaries and preemptively address emerging threats. Humanity's resilience and adaptability became the stuff of legend. Stories of their ingenuity, determination, and courage spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring awe and admiration. They were seen as a testament to the power of perseverance and the indomitable spirit of sentient life. The coalition's leadership emphasized the importance of humility and responsibility. They acknowledged the mistakes of the past and committed to learning from them. Policies were enacted to promote transparency, accountability, and ethical governance. Education programs were expanded to include studies of other civilizations' histories, cultures, and philosophies. This fostered empathy and understanding, reducing the likelihood of misunderstandings and conflicts. Humanity's scientific endeavors continued to push the boundaries of knowledge. Research into quantum mechanics, astrophysics, and biotechnology yielded groundbreaking discoveries. These advancements not only benefited humanity but were shared with allied species, strengthening interstellar bonds. The coalition also prioritized the exploration of uncharted regions of space. Missions were launched to investigate anomalies, map new star systems, and establish contact with previously unknown civilizations. These efforts expanded humanity's understanding of the galaxy and its place within it.